one of them is during Ramadan and the rest after Ramadan, inshallah. Today, Unit 6, this is the last unit is going to be included for a TMA. So hopefully it's helping you somehow answering the question of the TMA. To just recall, we having, as we said, we have a couple of diagrams that we already stored, and we will have 2 more in Unit 7, which is the status and the package diagrams. The one of the things that good to answering the question is to distinguish النوتيشن of each of those. يعني نجي نفرق كل واحدة كيف راح تكون elements on it. So let me just take a quick look. So what we're going to cover today is a sequence diagrams and communications diagrams. And if we take a look to sequence diagrams and communication diagrams, the main element in both of them is the objects. لو حين طلعنا هنا بالأعلى, we having seminars, courses, user interface, which is always going to be the first one in our course, is the same elements اللي موجودة في communications أو collaborations diagrams. The difference between them, how we're representing messages. We will cover the final 2 diagrams, inshallah, next week. So let's get to Unit 6. We did that small, so yeah. So before we starting with the diagrams, I have one part that I would like to review it with you, which is a design by contract. So what is design by contract? It's a concept that need to make sure that everything's follow the pre and post conditions between the sender and receivers. So I have a sender, or what we call it a client, who requests a service. From who? From a receiver. طيب الآن مين اللي مسؤول إنه هو to provide the preconditions is the sender. And then this is supposed to be guarantee that the receiver will provide the post condition. عندنا design by contracts, we have 2 players, عندنا client أو sender receiver أو suppliers. طيب فدائما عندنا client is expecting a supplier to perform the service correctly. يعني receiver المطلوب من إنه هو it's going to provide the post requirement. لكن we cannot guarantee this if you don't guarantee the precondition before. So a supplier at the same time is expecting that to perform only the things that you asking for and you're providing the precondition. So when we're talking about the pre and post condition, الشروط المسبقة that it has must be true before هذا precondition لازم تكون متحققة مسبقا when we're talking about the function or services. The post condition, anything is going to be guaranteed to be true after the function's done or a service is done. Let's take a look to another explanation here. We said the precondition that requires something from the client object. And we always talking about we having a class, and then with that class we have a set of objects. For example, أنا عندي class الهوتيل and I have a class الguest as a class. هو بس class يقول لنا أن الهوتيل has a name, it has a rooms and whatever information. لكن a real value قيمة حقيقية when I said an object such as the Ritz. So if I have a guest اسمه Jack as an example, so I have an object with a Jack who is sending some things to the hotel. the Ritz إلى hotel معينة. الآن هذه هي راح تكون communications between objects and object. بناء على إيش هو المطلوب? Depending on the questions, we get to design the pre وال post condition. لما يطلب بناء على هو السؤال لو كان الguest is asking for something from the hotel, now that from the client object اللي هم الguests اللي هو جاك جالس يطلب benefit من الهوتيل اللي هي the Ritz. البوست condition on another hand راح يكون السبلاير اللي هو in our example Ritz is gonna to which is giving a benefit to the client اللي هي Jack. So خلينا نجي إلى doing the pre وال post condition. نفترض أن always using this example, when you go to ask a company to build a house for you. So you said, I'm going to give you this amount of money. I'm expecting you to finish the house in this time with that amount. So now there's a pre and post condition. What's accepted and unaccepted way of changing those conditions? يعني إيش الأشياء اللي مقبولة إن لو تغيرت من ناحيتي أنا ككلاينت أو من ناحية السبلاير. So we have a rule. هي rule وحقيقة rule منطقية. What is said that we can the precondition. إن حنا ممكن نضعف الشروط المسبقة. What do we mean about we can the precondition? To make it clear for you, you can think about we can the precondition such as making something more general. لما يكون عندي condition مرة specific, طيب أنا غيرته, I make it more general, it's okay because I'm weakened. In another example, that when you're having a fewer condition, خلينا نشوف المثال اللي هنا. This example is going to make it clear for you. Let's assume as a bank, I give an option for the customer to pay using the credit card. So إيش راح تكون ال precondition الآن؟ اليوزر أو الكلاينت can use the credit card. For any reason أنا كcompany or كbank, I change my mind and I accept more broader options. So I accept using mobile payment, using, for example, transfers, whatever. فأنا أعطيت الآن للكلاينت خيارات أكثر. In this way, I give a few conditions إلى الكلاينت. يعني أنا أعطيته fewer condition. القيود قللتها عليه. القيد المسبق كان فقط إنه هو يقدر يدفع بالcredit card. Now he has more options. That means fewer condition. So this is what we called weaken precondition, and this is acceptable. هذا هو مقبول. This is something it's okay to do. طيب, when we're talking about the post condition on another hand, we can strengthen the post condition. ممكن نعملها better, نحسنها, نعملها improvement. That is okay. لكن ما نقدر نقللها. So let's take a look to the example, and I'm going to say whatever on the top here. Let's assume as an e-commerce website, شركة توصيل. بيقولوا لك إن إحنا we're going to start processing your order within 24 hours. If they tell you then later, I'm going to process this in 48 hours. Are you going to accept this? إحنا من البداية كزباين جالسين ننتظر إنهم يعملوا process within 24 hours. لو اجوا زادوا الوقت الامبروفمنت راح يكون اقل, فاحنا جالسين ما راح تكون better, راح تكون worse, اسوء. فهذه راح تكون weaken للبوست condition, which is not acceptable. However, if I as an e-commerce website, I change my mind, instead of processing the order within 24 hours, I'm gonna to process it within 12 hours. راح احسن الخدمة. I'm going to improve it. So I'm going to get it better. Better doesn't mean always more. Here we have 24 hours. We reduce the number of hours, but that means improve the service. طورنا الخدمة. So we are strengthening the post condition, and this is accepted. So whenever we have enhancement, improvement of the output, that is going to be acceptable for strengthening the post condition. Okay. So this is an important point about it. We already did this example during the class. I'm not going to go over it in a detail, but I'm just going to emphasize the point that I just explained, الأشياء اللي لسه شرحتها in this example. So هذا المثال كان already عندنا بالslide, which is asking, I have a company that I would like to sort 10 million addresses within 10 or less minutes. يعني أنا عندي إيميلات وأبقى أرتبها أقل شيء إنه يكون عندي 10 مليون أدرس, والمفروض إنه يكون 10 دقائق أو أقل. So the precondition, it is going to be sorted at 10 million address. والpost condition is going to be within less than 10 minutes. طيب if I have خلينا نقول contracts coming from different companies. In our case, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 companies. I have a different contract and I would like to accept or refuse some of them based on the pre and post condition. If the pre condition is a weekend, I'm okay with it. If it's same or weekend. The post condition, if it's same or strength, I'm going to accept it. So here, which company have a weaker precondition? من هذول الشركات has a weaker precondition? You can just write down the first letter of the company. So we have a Microsoft M, we have A, B, B, C, A, B, use it because we have an A here as well and we have a D. Which of those are a weaker precondition? The precondition هي هذه اللي بالأحمر. إن أنا أحتاج إلى ترتيب 10 مليون address. مين منهم راح يكون weaker precondition؟ Anyone?
Microsoft.
Microsoft, no. Weaken, that make it easier for me. You giving me you providing me more. I know it sounds confusing for some students. That's why I emphasize it here in the details. So الآن أنت you asking for 10 million. It's okay for you إنهم يعطوك يرتبوا لك فقط مليون واحدة من الإيميلات. فكري فيها كذا logically. So which of those are a weakener? صحيح. AE. What else? We still have one. Let's use
آخر اثنين 15 و 12 مليون.
Exactly. So those are a weakener precondition. طيب, which of those are stronger post condition? Stronger post condition هذه هي post condition. Stronger يعني إن هي I asking for a 10 minutes. الآن منطقيا إحنا ask for 10 minutes يعني معناها لو هو عمل لي هي أسرع better improvement I'm accepted. إذا هي راح تكون more time that means this is a weakener. طيب مين من هذول accepted؟ يعني أنا طلبت 10 دقائق، مين اللي بيعطيني أحسن من 10 دقائق؟ أسرع من 10 دقائق؟ 5 seconds, good. ممتاز. And then we having 10 seconds and one more. Well, 8 minutes. So well, 5 seconds with 10 seconds with 8 minutes is less than 10 minutes. So كلهم راح يكونوا stronger للبوست condition. لأن أنا طلبت 10 دقائق وهم أعطوني أسرع فهو بالنسبة لي ممتاز. طيب الآن بناء على those answer which would be suitable to use? How we going to define suitable to use? We're going to do a union. Sorry, not a union. We're going to do intersection. Okay, so we're going to do intersections between those. That it's going to be on both weakener precondition والpost condition. فعندي هنا EL والEL. So this is one. Direct restore with direct restore. So what's going to be a suitable of use? Those two companies. Okay. So this is going to, I make it in a table so it is going to be easier for you to memorize. So for the precondition, we asking for a 10 million address. Generalize it or make it easy, such as providing 15 millions. Like if I asking for 10 and you're providing 8, this is not acceptable. In another hand, for a post condition, I asking to finish it in 10 minutes. It's not okay to finish it, weaken it, finish it in 12 minutes, but it's okay to make it better, finish it in 9 minutes. Let's take a look to another example. As a company, I would like to store a data and it's getting to providing a retrieval time for those storage data. So I have a size. كم حجم الداتا اللي أنا طالبها المخزون، بالإضافة إلى المدة اللي أحتاجها to retrieve لاسترجاع القيمة. So I'm asking for إيش هي البري كونديشن تبعي؟ I'm asking for 250 gigabytes and then it must be retrieved within 15 seconds. But based on this table, I have four options. Which of those providers have a weaker precondition compared with the requirement? Weaker precondition. هذه هي البري كونديشن. أنا طالبة 250 storage. Okay. Anyone else? Like we get to
storage.
قصدك الميجا storage. Yes. لأنها 500 صحيح. What else? We already having a mega storage. We have answer هنا في الشات. Archived hubs. And what else?
1 تيرا.
1 تيرا وال500. That's it. Yes, and we're gonna to use liquid. It's actually depending of if we having less than or equal of the size. So the precondition of the storage size, they said less than the S. So if we having it equal, we supposed to have it equal, so we're gonna to count liquid as well. What about stronger post condition? I asked to finish it with a 15 second. What is going to have a less or equal of the R? So we having the R here. We asking for 15 seconds, so 10 seconds is less.
5 seconds.
5 seconds ممتاز is less. So we end up with having 2. الآن كيف راح نوجد السوتيبل المناسب لنا؟ We're going to do a union. مين اللي موجود هنا وموجود هنا؟ Let's take a look. الميجا موجودة هنا ومش موجودة هنا فما تناسبني. Liquid, we have it here and we don't have it for stronger, so it's not good for us. So what's we have? Oh, sorry, we have liquid in the other one. What we have the last one, which is the archived hub. We don't have it done. We have liquid and we have liquid. The cloud save, we have it for stronger, but we don't have for weaker. So we end up with having liquid data as the best suitable provider. أفضل شركة راح تقدم لنا خدمة تحقق البري والبوست condition. Any question about this? We have one more example, but I'm going to leave it as an exercise for you. As we're going to answer the sequence of communications diagrams, unless someone have questions. Any question about the pre or post conditions? Okay. And this is another example of comparing different algorithms with precondition, but here we having 2 parts of precondition. So we having inputs data asking for 20 tutors for 70 shift. So you need to consider both of them when we're thinking about the pre or post condition. The second part we're going to discuss today is the sequence diagrams. So what the sequence diagrams represent? We have at the top are the objects. That's one of them is going to send a message to another. And we having an element of a sequence diagrams. So we having this dash line, what we call it. Dash line اللي موجودة هنا. I have the answer for the next one, so I'm going to explain it here. إيش نسميها الخطوط المتقطعة هذه؟ Lifeline, ممتاز. And those that enroll students, we have one object sending what we call this. This is not a link. Message, good. So we have a student who's sending a message to a seminar, and then we having this part, what we call it. This is going to be active only if I have a message coming to it. So ايش راح نسميها الاكتيفيشن. ممتاز. So the main elements لما نجي نفكر في sequence diagrams, we're going to have the object on the top. Any messages happen first on the top, that means happened before the one at the bottoms. So that's representing time. And we having the messages here. And this is what we call it as self messages. That's the same object sending a message to itself. We have activation as what we said before. Okay. So those are the main elements of the sequence diagrams. طيب, how are we going to deal with the sequence diagrams? Like examples of the questions. For example, you can be asked to draw a sequence diagrams of specific use case with a set of requirements. يعني مثلا خلينا نشوف example and I'm going to back to requirements. They ask you to develop a sequence diagram for a process of buying an item at an e-commerce website. يعني نبغى نشوف كيف راح تتم عملية شراء البضاعة في الاي-commerce website. And they tell you what's the requirement. They asking you to have at least 4 objects. And in this case, they specify it. They tell you what's the object. Sometimes they don't. Usually, we always gonna to have a user interface. They tell us we have an object اسمه website with من class الwebsite. We have object called database from class database, and we have object called card from an object card. So this is the first requirement. The second requirement المطلوب الثاني إنه يكون عندنا at least 6 messages. لازم يكون عندنا 6 message راح ترسل between an object, and also we need to have at least 1 self messages. إيش يعني self messages? Messages جاية من نفس object to itself. What's also they asking us to have an opt fragment to check if the customer has any discount code. الآن هنا السؤال. Sometimes they provide what is the condition. Sometimes they only provide what is the requirement. بمعنى إن هم ممكن only يقولوا إيش هو المطلوب. إن المطلوب فقط أنكم تستخدموا الopt fragment. That's it. ويسكتوا. ويتركوا it to your imagination to figure it out. إيش هي ممكن الاحتمالات اللي we can use الopt فيها. Or they can provide you with what conditions, such as what we have it here. The same things with a loop fragment. They asking us to have a loop fragment, and they providing to repeat the process of adding the item to a shopping cart. هنا فصلوا حددوا لنا إيش هو المطلوب إنه هو يتم فيها التكرار. Sometimes they don't. Okay. So let's now take a look how we're gonna to do this. But before, I just would like to see if you are remembered the difference between the opt والloop, and we have one more. عندنا 3 أنواع من الفريجمنت. opt loop, and we have one more. إيش هي؟ else. ممتاز. إيش الفرق بين الopt والalt؟ الopt هي optional. إيش يعني optional? We have only one option. So راح تكون فقط فيها الf. However, when we're talking about الalt, alternative معناها أنه راح يكون عندنا الif والelse. Good, ممتاز. راح يكون عندنا الif والelse. So الopt خيار واحد فقط, والalt we have 2 options. والloop is repeating things. الآن, if I'm listing in this example, they asking for 1, 2, 3, 4 things. But based on what we have in the units, we can extend those requirements. نقدر نفكر في requirements أكثر. فالrequirement it could be about a number of objects. It can be about a number of objects. It can be about a number of message. It can be about a type of a message. يعني ممكن يقولوا لنا 6 messages, 8 messages. أحياناً ما يكون فقط about عدد المسجز على نوعية إيش المسجز. What are the type of the messages, such as they said a self messages, يعني إن هي تكون راجعة على نفسها. It can be about the opt fragment, the alt fragment, the loop fragment. That's it? لا. Sorry. في عندنا كمان requirement ممكن إن هي تتطلب make it generalized sequence diagrams. إيش يعني generalized sequence diagrams؟ يعني تكون عامة. instead of say the Ritz نحن نتكلم عن hotel اسمه the Ritz, we gonna to say a hotel, the hotel, H only. This is gonna to be generalized. Okay, so let's start answering this question. I'm gonna to do these questions using the tool, which is I'm gonna to start UML. So you need to use this during your TMA. So how are you going to use this tool? This is an easy used tool, يعني ما فيها تعقيد. I highly recommend you to use this tool or any other UML tools. Try to avoid using the Word. It's not about if you are doing correctly with the Word, it's fine. But believe me, it's going to take you more time, and it's highly يعني احتمالية إنه هو يكون عندكم doing things wrong higher لما تستخدموا الوورد لأن it's not going to help you. So how are we going to use this tool? If you install it, you can use whatever diagrams you are drawing. So for example, for TMA, you need to draw class diagrams and you need to draw sequence diagrams, which is we're going to do today. So we're going to select sequence diagrams. When we select the sequence diagrams, I'm supposing to use this because I have the detail here. It's going to draw the sequence diagrams for you. What you need to add then, I'm going to add a lifeline. They're asking us to have a 4 object. So I'm going to create 4 objects. I have a user interface. So I'm going to go a lifeline. I'm going to click it. So I have a lifeline, insert, so I have the first one. Then the second object is a website. So I'm going to create another lifeline, website, click, and then I have a database. This is the third one, a lifeline of it, enter, and the last one is the cart. Okay, so now this is the lifelines. What we need to do, we done with the first requirement. The second requirement, we need to think about 6 messages that's suitable, and one of them has to be a self, and we need to have a fragment. I need you to, okay, I get a question. How are you going to add it to Word? There's an option here at the end. When you finish, you can have a file, you can save it, or you can export it, sorry. يعني عفوا export it, save it as a diagrams, as a picture. ممكن تسيبوها كصورة. طيب, I'm going to give you one of the possible answer. Does it mean that this is the only answer you can have? So from an interface, the user can at the beginning browse an items. يدخل ويشيك إيش هي البضاعة اللي موجودة. So I'm going to have the first messages coming from the interfaces to browse the product from the website. So I'm going to add a message. I'm going to select a message. I'm going to click it here. See, because I just click it, it's make it a self. I don't need it to have a self. I need to have a message, which is coming from here to here. And you see how it's going to be easier than use it in Word, because it's going to do it directly from you doing the activation and doing the numbering as well. هو على طول راح يفعل لكم الاكتيفيشن والنمبرينج اوف المسج. طيب بعد ما اعمل براوزنج الى الايتم، دخلت على الموقع، شفت what's the item is there, what's the next step to do. بعد ما تدخلوا تصفحوا البضاعة، ايش الخطوة الثانية؟ اخترتوا بضاعة معينة، ايش راح تعملوا فيها؟ select an item. Good, we can have a select item, and then we can add it to the cart. I already having those here for faster for me, so you can cheat it from there. So it's coming from where to where then? الآد. Adding an item. راح ترسل من فين إلى فين. It is going to come from the user interface into the website. I'm gonna to add to the card. طيب, I need to extend the lifeline because it's quite short from all of those here as well. And then I add it to the card. What do I need to do also? I have the database. قاعدة البيانات يكون مخزن فيها إيش الأشياء اللي جالس الشخص يستخدمها. And I have a card which is related to what the customer is using. I'm going to just switch those. When you're adding something to your card, you're going to update it. إحنا جالسين نضيف أول تيشيرت مثلا. فأنا راح أضيف على السلة تبعي راح أضيف تيشيرت. فأنا في الموقع اخترتها لكن I have also to update الكارت اللي موجودة عندي. So راح أعمل update إلى المعلومات اللي راح تكون موجودة في الكارت. So the second messages is going to come after adding an item to the cart. I'm going to having a message coming from the website into a cart to update the cart. طيب, what else I can do? بعدها, طيب أنا عملية الشراء. إيش ممكن أعمل؟ طبعاً what you need to consider لازم ترجعوا مرة ثانية تقرأوا السؤال. إذا هم كانوا عطيكم requirement and they silent, you can build your own story. لكن in some cases, such as in our example, they give us some clue, such as إيش اللي قالوها? Use a loop fragment to repeat the process of adding an item to shopping cart. قال لك هذه عملية adding to cart أبغاها تكون repeated. فإيش اللي أحتاج أعمله هنا؟ راح أحتاج إني أعمل fragment. من فين راح أضيف الفريجمنت؟ راح أنزل هنا على النوتيشنز. calibrations, interactives, and then we're going to use a combined fragment. So how I'm going to add a loop? I'm going to use a fragment. من فين جبت الفريجمنت؟ نزلت اخترت من هنا من الادفانس بعد كذا combined, and then I'm going to select the part I need it to be repeated. And the fragment is supposed to be from the beginning until the end. يعني ما يصير إنها هي جزئية كاملة. لازم تكون within the time, all of it in this way. إيش راح تكون؟ راح تكون loop. So I'm going to have a loop that is defining, adding the process to show that it's going to be repeated. طيب إيش اللي عندنا كمان مطلوب? They said you have an opt fragment wants to check if the customer has any discount code. حابة إني أشيك هل الكاستمر عنده discount ولا ما عنده؟ من فين يجي طلب الديسكاونت؟ من أي object إلى أي object؟ من فين راح أعمل providing إلى الديسكاونت coupon؟ الآن هو مش حاط لنا this is I know sometimes the students get confused. مو حاط لنا الكاستمر. عامل emphasis على الأوبجكتس كتعامل on الويب سايت والسلة المشتريات and the databases. So the customer in this case interacting with what? من فين هو جالس يدخل المعلومات؟ من اليوزر انترفيس. طيب إذا هو جالس يعمل providing يعطيني معلومات الديسكاونت اللي عنده، فمن فين راح يدخلها؟ راح يدخلها is going to enter it from the user interface to where? To the website. So I need now to add a message. It is called to provide a discount coupon coming from الكاستمر اللي هو جالس يستخدم حاليا الانترفيس. So I'm going to have it from الانترفيسز to the website and it's called provide discount coupon. طب بعد ما أنا أعطيه الكوبون إيش اللي راح أعمله؟ أعطانا هنا معلومة. They said use opt fragment wants to check if the customer has any discount code. فإيش اللي راح أحتاج أعمله هنا؟ أضيف opt optional. فكيف راح أضيفها؟ راح أرجع مرة ثانية إلى الكومباوند فريجمنت وراح أرسم كومباوند فريجمنت لكن in this case راح تكون إيش؟ opt راح تكون optional. فهذا راح تكون optional يعني مش دائما المستخدم راح يعطيني discount. بعض الحالات I have a user who doesn't have a discount. So this only get to executed as an optional when he providing when he has providing a discount. طيب down the rest it's up to you to think about it. إيش اللي ممكن يحصل بعد ما أنا أضيف البضاعة في السلة وأقدم الكوبون؟ This is going to be optional، مش دائما راح تتحقق. إيش اللي راح أعمله بعد كذا؟ تحتاجوا تكملوا. إلى الآن how many messages do we have? We have only 4. They asking us to have a 6. إيش ممكن المسجز اللي نعملها بعدها؟
pay.
على طول بتدفعي دايركت؟ redeem a discount. Yes, this is a good message. What else you can do? Brainstorm. Think about it. الباي ممكن إن هي تكون في النهاية، لكن I'm not going to consider it هنا. أنا ما أعرف مين اللي جاوبت. We are not going to consider it for a reason. ما راح نقدر نستخدمها هنا، لأنها الأوبجكتس اللي موجودين عندنا اللي طالبها في السؤال محدد لي إنه هو يبغى الويب سايت والكارت والداتابيس. ما عندي شيء هنا يخص البيمنت. فالmessages that about the payment is not suitable for our cases. What we get to think about, we can have process order, كمل لي العمليات, which is coming from interfaces into the website. I'm supposed to copy it correctly from here. So we're going to have the process order. After I process the order, يعني هو provide me with a discount, I'm going to provide an order. إيش اللي أعمل له بعدين؟ I'm going to update the order. فين اللي راح ينعمل الupdate الorder? Coming from which object to which object? We having process order. بعدين عندنا عفوا في البداية راح يكون عندنا process الكارت على أساس إني أبلش أعمل بروسيس إلى السلة كلها كاملة. بعد ما أشوف السلة كاملة ممكن أعمل بروسيس إلى الكارت. طبعاً this is not the only solution. Again, it's all about the last step. It is gonna about how do you think about solving the problem. طيب لما أعمل بروسيس إلى الأوردر راح تكون between which object and which object. عملت بروسيس إلى الأوردر راح أعمل بروسيس إلى الويب سايت to database. صحيح ممكن إننا نعملها دايركت أو ممكن على أساس إن إحنا we have one more extra. طبعاً كلامك صحيح من الويب سايت إلى الداتابيس، لكن to having one more extra in addition we don't have an information about if الويب سايت have a direct access إلى الداتابيس ولا لا. So راح نحط a middle message اللي هي process الorder، وبعد كذا آخر شيء راح نعمل update إلى الorder which is coming from الكارت to a database. صحيح. Which is going to be updating the order. طيب we still have one important requirement اللي هي إيش؟ طالبين مننا أن لازم يكون عندنا self messages. طيب هذه self messages من فين ممكن نفكر فيها؟ self messages يعني واحدة من هذول الأوبجكت جالس يتواصل مع نفسه علشان يغير and let's for example an attribute أو قيمة موجودة. ففين ممكن أستخدم الself messages؟ راح أقول لكم إيش هي المسجز وقولوا لي مين الأوبجكت اللي راح يستخدمها. update الأيتم، يعني الزبون إجا واختار X large وغير رأيه وبيختارها large. مين من هذول الأوبجكت اللي ممكن يكون مسؤول عن تغيير نوع البضاعة من large إلى X large to update الأيتم؟
database.
الداتابيس. thank you exactly. راح تكون من عند الداتابيس. so راح يكون عندي self messages. من فين راح أجي أختار self messages؟ من هنا أجي إلى self messages من عندي من الأبديت جاية إلى نفسها راح تكون update الأيتم. so هنا بهذه الطريقة نكون غطينا كل الريكوايرمنتس اللي موجودين. غطينا الأوبجكت، غطينا النمبر أوف مسجز، غطينا اللوب والأوبشنال، وغطينا السيلف messages. Any questions about the sequence diagrams this?
أنا عندي سؤال. لو إحنا نبي نضيف البيمنت حيكون إيش الأوبجكت اللي موجود عشان يعني يكون في بيمنت؟
تمام. ممكن أن هي يكون عندنا شيء خاص بالcredit card for example. So if they هنا في the question they didn't emphasize the part. If we back to the questions, they said that the buying an item, but they didn't mention it as an object. Again, if you putting it within a database, it's going to be correct. لأن هي doesn't providing a detail. يعني أنت لو حطيتيها هنا وحطيتي إن هي doing البيمنت راح تكون صحيحة. لأن السؤال أساساً كان طالب buying an item. So الفكرة اللي أنت جالسة تقوليها absolutely correct. We are talking about the buying at the end. Yes, you can do it. And you can use it for a database.
بالنسبة للديسكاونت كوبون، كيف أقدر أسوي السيلف لو رجعت الكوبون؟ أن الكوبون مثلاً not valid.
Yes, you can do this. In this case, you can have alternative. So you can create alternative, which is opt and alt. So because you providing a discount coupon, and then you having if the coupon providing a correct coupon, that's what is going to happen. Else we're going to reject it. Yes, you can do this.
Okay, شكرا.
شنو المقصود بالdatabase هنا؟ database storage. That's where you store a number, amount of items, such as I have 5 blue t-shirts, I have 10 green, I don't know what. So this is a database. Is where you store the stocks. How many elements do you have for each product? Okay. So let's get back to our presentation. So again, this is one possible answer. Doesn't mean that if you're providing something else wouldn't be correct. I'm gonna to leave this as an exercise, although I believe I have to exercise, so I'm gonna to answer one and leave the other. Let me see. Okay, if any things I didn't cover it in the previous one. This is all about the elements. already تكلمنا عنها في المثال السابق. طيب هنا شوفوا the same actually they still using the same domain. السؤال اللي قبل وهذا السؤال both of them using e-commerce domain. But now they're using online shop, the product والcustomer as an object. هنا يوضح لكم إن أحيانا the same domain when they talking about the domain بشكل عام is different scenario can using different object. بمعنى لما أكون أنا جالسة أتكلم عن in this example they is trying to identify as the customer and then he's going to select the products. They need to emphasize the importance of let me use the laser, the importance of checking if this is a correct customer or not. So they're using different messages and different objects. في المثال اللي قبل كانوا they emphasize more about how the stock, how the database is changed. Again, هم أحيانا في طلاب يحسوا أسهل لما يعطوهم الأوبجكت، في طلاب يحسوا أسهل لما تنترك الأوبجكت open and they build their own story. Okay, so does the lifeline in this diagram represent? We already said what it is. What sort of arrows that هنا راح تكون عندنا هذه المessages. We already explained this. Okay, so I would like to emphasize a part here that we already see it in the units, showing the difference between creating a new object from another object. So if you see here, I have a user interface sending a message to an online shop where an online shop already created, already is there, موجودين كلهم مسبقا. I see all of them in the same level. However, in some cases, one of the objects sending a message, as a result of the message, we creating an object. Such as if I have a user interface sending a message called a new guest. As a result of this message, I'm creating object. How can I represent this? I have the arrow entering to object. مش entering to lifeline، راح يدخل على lifeline، راح يدخل على نفس الobject. طيب in another ممكن in another scenario you need to destroy. نحتاج ان احنا نلغي هذا الobject، نحذفها for any reason. So we need to destroy it. كيف راح نعمل destroy? We get to have a message to destroy and then we have it ellipse. Okay, I have a question here. If the website had a discount offer instead of the user provided coupon, we will send a message from UI to website to browser. Yes, you can do this. Right. It's depending. In our case, we assume that the user interacting with the website through the user interface. لأن ما عندنا user, so we interacting as a user interface إن هو الuser اللي جالس يرسلها. لكن if you considering the website هم اللي providing a discount, you can modify the message. صحيح. It's still valid. طيب. Does this diagram represent a generalization of generalized sequence diagrams? Please explain your reason. If it's not, make it a generalized. Anyone can give me an answer. Is this a generalized sequence diagrams? Yes or no? Good. No. Why? Because we have a specific name. How we get to make it generalized? We get to say a guest, the guest, a hotel, the hotel, or H. So if you get something like this, you need to write down the explanation, and then you get to make it, yes, exactly, a prototypical objects. So this is how we get to explaining a generalized or using describable prototypical interactions. So you are already having this in your slide. Another diagrams that we get to discuss it here is the communications diagrams. It's very similar to sequence diagrams. Is the difference about it's about how we're going to representing the message. So instead of having it with a time, we're going to use a numbering. What I need you to remember here, as simple act as it is, as sometimes students get confused about it. To just not get yourself confused about numbering, remember like when you are writing things on using a word. So if you're having a header is get to 1, subheader 1.1, subheader 1.1.1. If you're having another subheader under the subheader 1.1, راح تكون 1.1.2 اللي هي جاية. Let's use the then. So both of those is going to be under this subheader. And this subheader and this subheader, it's coming out, and this is 2. So I have 3 subheader coming from one header. And the same things with it too. So the same concept, we're going to use it for a communication diagram. The question about the communication diagrams, the first part, it can be similar to the question of sequence diagrams. Draw a communication diagrams for buying commerce, creating 4 objects, using 6 messages, and having a self messages, for example. We don't presenting an opt and a loop the communications diagram. That was one way of a question. Another way of a question, we can asking you to represent reflect diagram of one of the diagram. So we can give you a sequence diagrams, asking you to draw a communications diagram, or another way, you having a communications diagram, we're asking you to draw a sequence diagrams. الآن let's take a look to the trick, how we get to do this step. لو أجاكم سؤال, for example, about mapping sequence diagrams to communications diagram. يعني هذه الرسمة ما راح تكون موجودة عندكم. اللي موجودة عندكم only this. How are you going to do it? Let's start step by step. The first step, objects. So you're asking yourself, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 objects. So you said 1, 2, 3, 4, you start drawing them. And you cross it out. خلصتها. So the first one is the object. The second things you need to consider is the messaging. So you're going to take a look to the message. You said, I have a login. So this is going to be 1. Do I have another message in the same level? لا. I have a sub message which is coming after it. So this is going to be 1.1. I have then a search product which is coming in the same level with this one. So راح تكون 1. But in this time is going to be 1.2. I still have another message in the same level. لسه في نفس المستوى. So it's going to be 1.3. Now I'm done. I don't have any 1 point anymore. راح انتقل إلى الليفل اللي بعده. So I have to save John. So now this is going to be 1 point coming from where? Coming from 1.3. So it's going to be 1.3. السب حقها ايش راح يكون؟ 0.1. I in the same level عندي another message. So راح تكون 1.3.2 لأن هي جاية امتداد من هذه من ال 1.3. طب خلصت الترجيم ايش هي next step? So second step is the numbering. So I'm going to do a numbering. The third step, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to reflect it. راح أجي هنا, I'm going to asking myself, I have from a user interface to online, I have a login, so I'm going to draw it. راح أجي أكتبها. I have an arrow and under it at the bottoms, so I'm going to draw it. I'm done. راح أحطها هنا. بعدها I have an identified customer. I already know numbering. خلصتهم. So I'm going to put the numbering. أكتب اسم المessages, what it is. And now I need to consider it's a loop. It's a self message. So it's supposed to come and end from the same object. So I have it done from here. I'm going to draw it in this time. لاحظوا أن هي تجي يعني كأنه اللينك طالع داخل فيها نفسها. لكن الارrow it's always coming under المسج. And then we having another one that it's coming from the online shop, which is a search product to itself 1.2. So I have it 1.2. And then I have 1.3 coming now from an online shop to the product. So it's coming from an online shop to the product. I have a select, so I'm done with it. I'm going to cross it out. I'll do the same things with the rest. But within these 3 steps, we are easily mapped from sequence diagram to communication diagram. بنفس الطريقة, we can do the opposite way from communication to sequence diagrams. Okay? And here is another example. Try to do it by your own. ماشيين على نفس الطريقة. لو لاحظتوا, the only things I'm going to answer it. هنا, how many first level message we have? We have 3 first level message. 1, and then 2, and then 3. لاحظوا كلهم, all of them is coming when the same level. لكن we supposed to finish all the messages coming after 1, and then we move to 2, which is 1.1, search for train. Whenever it's done, and then we're going to do next. Here is a set of questions. Again, I'm not going to answer those details. Hopefully you can go over it. This is the importance of the diagrams mapping between one to another. Now I'm going to map the other way from communications to sequence diagrams. الآن كيف راح نعمل المابينج؟ نفس الشيء the same steps. خلينا نبدأ بأول خطوة. قلنا هي إيش؟ الأوبجكت. So we're going to say I have 4 objects, user interface والguest والhotel والroom. فراح أجي وأرسمهم هنا. So I'm done. بعد ما أخلص الأوبجكت, I'm going to move to a numbering of the messages. So now in numbering is representing by time. So I see I have a 1 and then I have a 2. So I know they're coming from the interfaces, both of them with a different level. So راح أجي أحط الأول، هذه راح تكون رقم 1، وبعد كذا I have the check-in the same level. So I'm gonna to put identify. راح أترك فيه بعض الديتيلز، بعض التفاصيل اللي هي المسجز اللي جاية. We're gonna to go over them by one. So I'm gonna to say this is the identified guest. هي رقم 1 فراح أحط identified guest. Then I have the check-in رقم 2. So I'm gonna to identify check-in guest. طب إيش عندي كمان؟ الآن هل عندي any messages coming out from ال1؟ لا. So أنا خلاص خلصتها. I'm not gonna to add any more messages. ما عندي ولا sub message coming from ال1. I have a sub message coming from 2 بس مين منهم؟ I'm gonna to search 2.2. لا مش هذه هي اللي تهمني. I am looking for 1 so I'm gonna to take a look to 2.1. هذه هي أول message راح تتفعل as a sub from 2. So I'm gonna to have 2 to find the free room. بعد ما أخلص 2.1 اللي جاية between the guest and the hotel بناء على communications diagrams, I have 2.2 and it's a self messages coming from the guest to itself. فهنا راح أكون خلصتها، وآخر واحدة راح تكون عندي the last one 2.3 coming from the guest to room, and I'm going to activate it. Okay, so this is how you make sure you cover it all. The concept that I needed to tell you about هنا اللي هي الfork والcascade. When we're using the class diagrams, we get to see that there is an association between one class and another. But sometimes we have a class that doesn't have a direct association with another class. فمثلا هذا المثال عندكم already بالunit. فمثلا أنا عندي الكومباني والجوب والبيرسون. البيرسون has information about the age. نفترض مثلا أنا عندي المانجر. حاب إني أعرف كم عمر المانجر. The age of the manager. As a company, I cannot direct ask the person about the age. So I have two options. Either الفورك or الكاسكيد. المثال اللي أقوله للطلاب، تخيلوا بعض المدراء about يعني بعض managers, they always don't believe on their employees. They said, you don't know how to do the things. They do everything by themselves. So those are the fork or cascade. Anyone with me? When you are doing everything. Anyone? ايش الفرق بين الفورك والكاسكيد؟ الكاسكيد هي التفويض، الديليجيشن. انا افوض الاشخاص الاخرين لعمل الاشياء. delegated هذه كاسكيد. الفورك on another hand, I'm the one don't believe anyone can do anything. I'm gonna do it by my own. So number 1 or number 2 هي الفورك. I do everything by my own. Centralized. ممتاز. أي واحدة؟ Number 2. صحيح. Number 2 هي اللي راح تكون centralized. إيش يعني centralized؟ أنا ما أقدر أوصل إلى البيرسون. راح أروح إلى الجوب وأقول له يلا لو سمحت جيب لي معلومات. Give me the information of the person. I'm gonna to get this information and I go by myself to the person and I'm gonna to ask for age. So this is centralized. I'm doing everything by my own. This is the fork. The cascade, on another hand, is you delegate. I go to a job. I tell a job I need the age. I don't care كيف أنت راح تجيب الage. It's your responsibility. روح إلى البرسون وجيب منه الage. So this is gonna to be cascade. بناء على whatever we study الأشياء اللي تعلمناها بunit 1 اللي هي low dimetry, we're trying to having a low coupling. تقليل العلاقات. مين راح يكون عندنا الأفضل؟ Who is preferred? الكاسكيد ولا الفورك؟
الفورك.
هذه هي مين؟ الكاسكيد. صحيح. الكاسكيد هي المفضلة، هي الأفضل بالنسبة لنا for low optometries. طيب how those examples how will fork and cascade concept can come? There is a lot of possibility. It can be explanation, it can be draw, it can be give a reason, it can be, for example, updated corporations of diagrams. مثلا I have this question. I have a diagrams that they said updated collaboration diagram by changing any fork to cascade. فين عندي هنا fork؟ كيف أعرف إن هي fork؟ متى ما تشوفوا عندك two association coming from the same circle, that means you're having a fork. So كيف راح نقطعها و change it to cascade? Now I have a user interface asking for a ticket. Instead of I'm asking for update the number of the passenger, أطلب من الترين إنه هو update the number of the passenger, and then I'm going to associate the ticket number as a ticket system. أنا كنظام system راح أعملها كلها. طب الآن no, I'm going to delegate, راح أفوض عملية associated number إلى الترين. So I'm going to change this. كيف راح أعمل الآن عملية delegation؟ راح أعمل delegation إلى الترين. هذا الجزء اللي هنا راح أستقطعه, and I'm going to have it that the train is going to connect with the passenger to put it as an association. So هذه اللي عندنا كانت fork. I'm going to update it cascade. كيف عرفت إن هي fork? I already saying that the system of tickets is doing two messages related to each other. So أنا هنا فوضت الترين to do the second messages and connected with the passenger. Okay. So this is an example of a fork and a cascade. So that's it for today about sequence and the communications diagrams. Any questions about them? Any questions? What is the difference between set, occupant, gel? Exactly. Okay. So I already explaining this during the class, but okay, I have a question here about the gel and gel. I'm not sure if I have. Okay, I'll bring the slide for me. Let me stop sharing. And I'm going to bring that slide for you to answer your question. This is in a unit. Okay, so this is the questions your friends asking about. What's the difference between we having a check-in as a gel, as a string, or when we have it as check-in as a gel? The first one here is a string. What's a string mean? Let's assume we have a receptionist. You coming as a guest, جاي إلى الفندق. You tell the receptionist your name as a string. فهو جاي يكتب gel as a string كتابة. هنا it's depending on external identifier على الشخص اللي هو الخارجي, الريسبشنست اللي جالس يكتب. ممكن يكتبها بطريقة صحيحة, ممكن يكتبها بطريقة خطأ. So this is make it a really depending, strongly coupled على اليوزر interface. طريقة الكتابة صحيحة, خاطئة, موجودة, مش موجودة, which is not really preferred. الطريقة الثانية الأصح إنه we using it as an object كمتغير. We creating object with a type jack. يعني مثلا أو gel. So مثلا أنا هذا gel already هو زبون عندي. I creating object with a type jack. So gel, sorry. So I'm going to say guest, the كريم من 251, guest, new guest, object مثلا جديدة equal to new guest, وبعد كذا أعملها gel. راح يتخزن عندي في النظام كأوبجكت, خلاص معروف, مش مربوط بس كسترينج. طيب لما أنا حابة أشوف مين هم الزباين اللي عندي اللي بهذا الاسم, I'm gonna to use a method اسمها get all guests. So such as when I have a drop down, قائمة منسدلة. فمثلا أنتوا لو تيجوا تتسوقوا من محل, ما راح يطلب منكم, they don't asking you to write the name of a t-shirt. لأن ممكن تكتبوا اسم التيشيرت, تعرفوا اسم التيشيرت, ما تعرفوا اسمه. You get to have a drop down. هذه الدروب داون لو اخترتوا التيشيرت الفلانية اللي لونها black for example, هي already موجودة في النظام كايتم, كأوبجكت. So هذه القائمة المنسدلة جايبة قيم items already there. So gel in this case the green one, is an object. However, jail in the red is a string, which is coupled, which is not preferred. Okay? I don't know if this is answering your questions. Any another question? I think it was a sequence diagram. Yes. Okay. exactly صحيح نفس العيارات بدل انه هو ما انت تكتب الرقم هو بيكون موجود فانت عندك قائمه منسدله so you make sure ان هي the correct one. So I'm going to stop sharing, answering your questions. I'm just give me a second. Okay, I'm going to answer a couple of questions that some students just mix it up. So we have a difference between model and modelization. Module that you get, we have a different type of module, but the module is coming off a process of modelization. So modelization, it's actually a process dealing with a divide and concurrence. And this is giving us a 3 type of examples, which is examples here, what they're providing us. such as لما يكون عندنا library في السوفتوير في object oriented لما يكون عندنا classes applications في البروجرامز. Those are example of modelization. The projections will others that are the type. Diagrams that we have a different diagrams, different module, those are not modelizations. Okay. Another things I need to tell you about it is that when we're talking about UB project with the 4 phases, where is the business process case developed? The business process case develops in the inceptions part, okay? And what else we can talk about that when we're talking about the model language, what is the diagrams, notations representing is using the semantic part. And we having also why we need a fit criteria. We need a fit criteria for a developer, for a tester, and for a client. Each of those using a fit criteria in their own way. Developer to develop a correct, produce that meets criteria. A tester is going to use to meet the original requirement to check it out, to test it, and the client that need, this is what I really looking for, okay? So I hope this answers some of many questions I got before the class. I have one last part. I'm going to show it to you, but just give me a second. So when we're having classes as a generalization is a very common concept you already know about it since Java. Generalization is هو نوع من. So for example, if I have class saving account is an account, so this is an inheritance, okay? That's as inheritance from an account. لكن when we having the XOR, this is not an inheritance. This is not a type of. I have a saving account and I have a gold account. Both of them has a relationship. Use the customer, or the customer use a save account and a gold account. So when I say XOR, that means either the user have an association with the saving account or have an association with the gold account. Does it mean, it's not meaning that a saving account is a customer. So you cannot use an XOR for a generalization. Okay, this is something I really need to emphasize for you. So those are not a type of a customer. Those are type of a customer. Okay. Any questions regarding anything else?
دكتورة السيرفيسز والكومبوننت مثال على الموديلايزيشن.
السيرفيسز لسه we didn't get it. في راح يكون عندنا unit كاملة عليها. It's not about. No, it's not an example. No, about the modelization. Any another question? Okay, so the last things I need to say